find it interesting, having come from such a new country like Canada, and when you go to a place like Spain, and in particular where I lived in Catalonia, you realize that you don't really have a strong sense of your history, because we don't really have much here. We're a country mostly of immigrants. So I think it's interesting to have this pride and understanding of what it means to be a Canadian, but ultimately, compared to maybe a family who have been Catalan and living there for generations and generations, you realize how I don't know how thin your definition of what it means to be attached to a place is, and I think they're just so proud to be there. Sometimes it kind of borders a little bit too much, where it can turn into a bit of a bias. But it's really interesting to see how much pride they take in being Catalonian, how much pride they take in their food and their culture and the history. Catalan and Spain have been kind of at odds with each other for a long time, and I think Catalan people really value their kind of fighting spirit and their ability to preserve their own culture and language. And they're just so kind. The people there were just so kind and so welcoming and so understanding, that I was in a new place, and very I read in a George Orwell book, that the Spanish, in particular the Catalonians, they're the kind of people that you ask them for a cigarette and they'll give you their whole pack. And I read that when I was there, actually, and it really resonated with me, because that is kind of how I feel about them. It's almost, and George almost said it was embarrassing to a point, because you're just asking for a little bit, and they're so willing to give you everything, and it's just so wonderful. As Canadians, we see ourselves as being kind and welcoming, and I think that that's true. But there's something different there with the Spanish. They're so warm, and they have such a long history of being warm and welcoming. And I think that really comes out in just their ability to just be able to give themselves to people, and to take pride in who they are, and to take pride in what it means to be a Catalan person, and how that formulates who they are as a person. And I thought it was just such a wonderful a way of looking at my world, and seeing my world from that outside perspective, and realizing that things are very similar, but at the same time, there's just such a different history there, and things are just so different, and yet we can connect, and it's really a wonderful thing, and I'm so thankful for the experience, ultimately.